We anticipate in the next 10 to 12 years approximately 8 to 6 million Hispanics coming into the United States and 41 million Asians. You have been the majority minority for 400 years in this country. You have been the number 2 population for 400 years. You're going to get kicked out of being number 2. You're going to go down and become number 4. Now, common sense, even a third grade education will tell you, if you didn't get anything when you were number 2, you all jumped ahead of me, but anyway, you can get what you're going to get when you become number 4.
President Biden, do you support reparations?
Well, let me, since I haven't spoken on this for a chance, number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single country. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 of 100 children in our school today is Hispanic. The idea that we are going to walk away and not provide every opportunity for them is that not only stupid and immoral, but it's bad for America. They are the future of America. Systemic racism that has played our nation for far, far too long. It's said that over the course of the past year that the blinders have been taken off the nation, the American people. But what many Americans didn't see or had simply refused to see couldn't be ignored any longer. Those 8 minutes and 46 seconds that took George Floyd's life opened the eyes of millions of Americans and millions of people around all over the world. It was the knee on the neck of justice, and it wouldn't be forgotten. And it's not white Americans' fault, but just a fact.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farm. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we are coming to get our check.
We are owed $104 trillion on the very low end, plus $735 billion recurring. This number does not include the cost of about 50 Black Wall Streets that were decimated, nor compound interest from 2017 when Sean D. Rochester's book, The Black Tax, was published, nor the cost of Black life, nor the cost of living increases, nor the war on drugs, nor the current day pandemic. The number I'm working with is for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives.
Good evening on the West Coast. Good evening in the mountain. Good evening in the central. Good evening on the East Coast. You know exactly who it is, family. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the reparationist perspective, bringing you those A-Dots, hot topics, and making the case for reparations, making the case for weaponizing our vote, socializing our suffering. I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Ida B. Wells 2.0 presents Anti-Black Racism. We're keeping a spotlight on the Puckery family. Yes, we are. Shout out to Miss Lady K Love and Brian C. Johnson. And for those of you who have yet to chat, where you're slinging bricks, I want to welcome you one and all to this live. Yes, indeed. This is part 2 of Stop Hustling. What my baby say? I want to get it right. Stop Hustling Black Death. The Samaria Rice story. The mother of Tamir is not a mother of the movement. And I just jumped off of Be the Power. Oh my God, I had to fix dinner. I had to eat a little something so I could come to you guys live. And got caught up over there on Be the Power. You know, doing what I do, chatting it up. Shout out to Be the Power. And shout out to listen, we leaning in, family. He over there giving them all that smoke. He giving the boule all the smoke, as I often do over here. I got a whole series behind the black gatekeepers, the colored gatekeepers of white supremacy. Woo, dude, Jesus, the puckery is real. We are just being squeezed in from all directions, but I am proud of the new black media, giving all of them that business, give them all of them that work, give them all the smoke. They are mad that we won't give in. We won't give up. We won't give out. We don't care if we're not on corporate with 3K's news media. We don't care to lick no boots. We are over here telling the TR Ruth, bringing them all out on the carpet, bringing them out of hiding with all their double speak, their double talk, acting as if the anti-Asian law covers all of us. That's what roly-poly is trying to make you believe. Dr. Carr, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. I knew there was a reason why I couldn't stick with you on the Karen Hunter show. Because y'all like to sound good. Y'all like to philosophize and use all them big ass words that my business writing teacher told me to put them words down. Speak in your own voice. But that's how y'all like to sound while y'all constantly trying to put us down. When we're educated, well-read, understand the data, something y'all have yet to address in anything y'all doing. Yeah, but we know that you are the decadent veil. This is what y'all do for your butter biscuits, you see. You like to keep the sheep walking to the polls. And you're pissed with the new black media. Oh, yes. We would not be on your lips if you weren't threatened by the fact that we've got a social media, that we no longer are muzzled, that we are using our voices. We are laboring in the vineyards to wake the people up, to come together as a block to stop doing this two-step shuffle between the Democrats and the Republicans all the way to our own peril. And so you're constantly trying to convince the people that watch you not to watch us. You are as much of the shadow band as is ScrewTube. You are as much a disabler as is Facebook. To try to convince the people who are finally coming over and getting the truth. Because I don't care how you spend that ish in your cycles. When they check their bank accounts, they still can't afford a house. They still can't afford health care. They still can't afford to buy a business. They still can't prevent evictions. They still can't prevent being redlined into environmentally racist communities and tenement housing. They still can't prevent the preschool to prison pipeline. They still can't prevent state-sanctioned executions. So y'all can spin on the hamster wheel all you want. You just sound like, little well poop from Obama. That's what you sound like. But the people know, just like I woke up after 8 years of Obama when he created 1 million white millionaires, while over 50% of ADOCs lost the only wealth they had, their homes. But you, roly-poly, want to try to convince the masses of us that the anti-Asian hate law that was just passed protects us too. That 80.5 million that went specifically to AAPI is ours too. And look, oh, by the way, they took it from our civil rights measures. You see the Jedi mind trick the black, white inferiors like to play on the people? We know, because we're well read, that they're taking our language from things that were intended for us that were never enforced. And they weaponize our own civil rights and Title IX and Freedmen's Bureau language to get bills passed into law because they got caucuses that work specifically for them. I've told y'all in several archives, go look at the CBC site and look at all the lives mattering over there, but ADOCs. Go look at the Asian AAPI. Go look at the Hispanics. I didn't see not one ADOCs up there at the ribbon cutting ceremony when they passed the anti-Asian hate crime bill into law. I didn't see no ADOCs on that stage. When they took a photo after receiving $80.5 million, while we're told we got to study a cashless reparations, because that's really about pandering for our vote, because 2022 is around the corner. I ain't seen no ADOCs up there. Freedmen, B1, BFA, ADOS. I didn't see none of that. But they're trying to convince you that the recent anti-Asian protections and money is yours. The fuckery never quits, family. These Boule Negroes are paid big butter biscuits, and not so big, really. If it was that big, why is Roly-Poly Martin coming down on the new black media for telling the truth and trying to convince you, don't listen to us, as if we lack education, as if we ain't well read? So be the power. Y'all giving them that smoke, and I'm here for it, hunty. Yes, I am. But I had to jump off of that because I promise y'all I'll be back over here at 6, and it's already, what, 6:44? Because, you know, ADOC's life is happening. Mama still got to run the empire over here for her princess. And I just thank y'all because I see some of y'all. I was chatting y'all up over in their feed, and here y'all come switching between channels to catch it all. Well, family, I really tried to stay out of Be the Power's way, but there's no way to stay out of each other's way. They go on when they go on, I go on. I just decided I had to do it when I got a window to do it. Okay? So, you know, I gotta try to keep a schedule because I'm trying to grow my platform in the way they richly have over there. Shout out to each of those brothers. They know I love them. Black and strong. And although they may not see me over there as often as I once used to be able to, the bottom line is we're doing the work in the vineyard. We are all pushing and leaning in and lending our voices to liberate our people and to get the reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. And I'm just proud to do the work alongside you. It's a privilege. Love those brothers. And I love y'all for loving us so much that you literally are toggling between shows to make sure I've got an audience over here. So let's get into it. Okay, did I stop sharing? Welcome to the live, one and all. I can't see y'all. Trey Lincoln, I love you, family, y'all. I hate to make y'all have to choose. I'm going to stop this sharing piece so I can just read, and I'll be back for your comments. So this is part 2, y'all. It's story time. Get your libations. Y'all know I was born to talk and I love to read. And it's important. The story is critically important that I get out all the way through. We might have to do a part 3. It's long. But it is making the case for reparations. We talked yesterday about Tamir's mother. We talked about the hardships of Samaria Rice. We talked about her domestic violent partners, her being caught up in the social system, her being caught up in the prison, her being homeless, her living on the street. And the fight for reparations is about enriching ADOCs so that we can break the cycle of what is happening to Samaria Rice, which is happening to the majority of ADOCs. Just because we can afford to congregate here doesn't mean the majority of us aren't living the life of Samaria Rice. It's in the numbers. White folks killed and stole everything our ancestors built through heinous chattel slave labor. They share in over 100 trillion household dollars, while ADOC share in less than 700 billion, 90%, more like 84. They're quickly trying to replace us with Black immigrants. Quickly. That's why we've got the highest rates of unemployment and underemployment. So Samaria Rice is the prototype for what our people are undergoing right now. What wasn't taken from us under Obama, as he created 1 million white millionaires, we are being clean wiped off the monopoly board, and I can't even find current data. So we won't even see current data till the next election cycle. You'll get to see, because they usually do these things in 10-year cycles. The Color of Wealth LA was 2004 to 2014. So we're being replaced by not just Black immigrants, because Black immigrants have to have money to be here. If you Haitian and poor, your ass is going back on a plane. ICE is going to deport you back to Port-au-Prince. Your children don't get to stay here. They're not going to set up, these little rescue missions and carrying on and spend $1 bazillion to usher in 26,000 of Black, Haitian, or African children or Caribbean children monthly, the way they're doing the Hispanics, whom they can make white. Okay? So it is my role, and that'll be the power in all of New Black media, to keep a spotlight on the buckery and expose the boule, like Roly Poly, like Dr. Carr, like everybody that was on that platform. You'll be seeing more of that in my other series, The Colored Gatekeepers of White Supremacy. It's coming. It's coming. All right, so we talked about the dreadful, abominable conditions of this mother of 4. And we were building up to what happened on November 22nd, 2014. So let me get into it so I can come over there and see what y'all got to say about it. As usual, I'm going to be commenting and giving data in between this heart-wrenching story. Please like, share, subscribe, turn on your notifications. I thank y'all. Cynthia Adeyemi, thank you so much for your generous contribution to the show. Thank you, one and all, for your generous contributions to the show. You know what? I greatly appreciate you guys so much for supporting my voice in the reparationist movement. But we got to talk about it, because you can't fix what you refuse to face. And that's what these butter biscuits Negroes, the boule, want you to do. See, they share in the top 10% of Blackness. They share in that 2.5 trillion. And it don't take much to be in the top 10%. Guess how much you got to make to be in the top 10%? About $150,000 a year. That's how dismal and deplorable our situation is. Now we got some crossover in between, right? Some Black immigrants share in the less than 700 billion. Some ADOC share in the 2.5 trillion. But the challenge with folks that share in the 2.5 trillion, they are the colored gatekeepers of white supremacy. They are put in place to make sure we stay the anchor so they can continue butter biscuits and to give wealth to their children. What little modicum they've got, which ain't much when you compare 2.5 trillion for the top 10 to 14% of Black folks in this country to over 100 trillion for other immigrants that are made white and white folks. So they're fighting to keep their 2.5. They're paid off to fight to keep their 2.5, to sell us out until the new Black media started exposing all of the puckery. Proud to be amongst them. So back to the story. On November 22nd, 2014, that new life was upended. Her 12-year-old son, Tamir, was playing with a toy gun, as so many boys do, at the Kudell Recreation Center across the street from their home. Someone reported Tamir to the police. Though Rice reminds me that the caller had said the gun was probably fake, and the person playing with it was a juvenile. Immediately upon arriving at the scene, Officer Timothy Lehman shot at Tamir twice without warning while his patrol car was still rolling. The world saw the video of the 6th grader, a child, shot dead. The police report noted that the cops were looking for a guy with a pistol who was menacing the neighborhood. This is how they like to lie and make up their own stories to justify the annihilation of an entire lineage by state-sanctioned execution. Quote, I do not know how I'm able to get out of my bed every day, Rice tells me. See, this was her baby boy, whom she was closest to, whom she lived in a homeless shelter with. That house was their transition from homelessness. She had to fight the state to get her other children back and to keep Tamir, even though he came through her. You got a lot of folks who are anti-abortionists. That's mostly for white folks. They don't give a damn about Black babies. You got a lot of pro-lifers until it has to cost them to take care of that life that we bring onto the planet, you see. When it has to cost white folks, they'll plant the abortion centers in our community to encourage us to keep aborting. And if we continue to have babies like Samaria did, with nothing to her name, it renders us homeless. And the state gets to take our children and do all manner of abuses to them. Rest in power, Ma'Khia Bryant. It's a vicious cycle. So they can't have babies. Pro-lifers are about white babies. Because if you were about pro-life, you would guarantee income for every ADOC's mama and daddy. You would guarantee that you would care more about their employability than you do all these immigrants you're ushering into the country to ensure we remain the anchor of this country with 3K's capitalism. If you was really about Black Lives Mattering, you would be about our social and economic inclusion. So you're not really about Black life, right? You're about white life. You're about staying in power. And capitalism needs an anchor. And so we become it, and our children become target practice. Our men become target practice. Our women. Because dollars bring dignity, and being poor makes you a target. Understand the correlation and why we fight. We have grown clinical in our repetition of how all these incidents of police killings take place. They take place because of First Amendment rights of the domestic terrorists called the KKK, neo-Nazis and skinheads, and their right to employment matters over Black life. This ain't a mystery to pontificate. Stop hiring the Mickey Mickeys and then qualified immunity. That's what you do. And charge them for the civil suits. And give them the penalties you give us just for accessory. But they don't want real solutions. They want to ethnically cleanse us about the country our ancestors built with their lives, and they want your silence to be complicit in helping them do so, while they scratch their balls over Black-on-Black crimes and murders. The evidence is stated and lined up. The protests happen. The failure to prosecute or to convict is expected. But the way Rice describes the day her son was killed brings a fresh horror. She was sitting on the couch watching television when the family was alerted that Tamir had been shot. Her eldest jumped up and ran to the center. When Rice arrived, she says, quote, "My 14-year-old daughter was screaming in the back of a police car. And then they had my 16-year-old surrounded by 8 race soldiers," my word. "And they told me to calm down, or they was going to put me in the back of the police car." She continues. "And they also gave me an ultimatum to stay at the scene of the crime or go with my 12-year-old son in the ambulance." One child had been shot. The other 2 were under the control of the people who shot him. As a mother charged with protecting all 3, she was at a terrible crossroads. She had to leave 2 behind to ride up front in the passenger seat of the ambulance, knowing Tamir was in the back, surrounded by the people who had killed him. As the world responded in outrage, Rice grieved. What began as a makeshift memorial in Cudell Commons Park, filled with teddy bears, candles, and flowers, grew to frequent protests in Cleveland and in cities across the country. The national media chronicled this atrocity and the egregious failures of the Cleveland Police Department. That Layman had been declared unfit for duty in another Ohio city owing to emotional instability. That Cleveland police had not reviewed his file when he was hired. And that neither officer at the scene performed first aid on Tamir in the minutes after he was shot and Rice was drowning in her grief. By then, the Black Lives Matter movement had already blossomed. There was a formal National Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. You know, the one that accrued $90 million weaponizing the execution of George Floyd. While Patrisse Cullors is on her fifth home purchase in very well-to-do neighborhoods, while claiming she doesn't receive any money from the foundation, which is enriched and endowed by white money, akin to the NAACP and the National Urban League. National Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, which had formed following the killing of another boy, Trayvon Martin, 2 years before, and the spontaneous protests that popped up across the country in response to a series of videos of police officers killing unarmed African Americans. Rice had been aware of all this, but hadn't gotten involved until her child was killed. Is that what it's going to take for folks to get politically aware and to stop listening to the spin cycle of the black white inferiors and the white inferiors alike on every level of government before they get involved with reparations? Will it take for us to be ethnically cleansed up out this piece like the Native American Indians? Will it take you being reparations for your family to your own destitution before you'll get involved in this fight? Knowing you have no wealth, even if you're fortunate enough to have income, you have no wealth to leave your children. How will they survive it? Will it take your family members going to the corners to raise money or start a GoFundMe just to bury you? Because you refuse to get on the right side of history in the fight for reparations? It took for me to be under the boot of institutional systemic racism in corporate with 3 Ks to have lost a lot before I finally said, yes, I'll use my voice and my gifts because I am my brother's keeper. What's it going to take for you to get involved? Will it take a travesty? It doesn't have to. Like many family members of those killed by police, she was naive about how to navigate the sudden attention being trained on her in the midst of such emotional pain. Quote, a lot of us parents don't know what to say or how we should be acting, she tells me. There is a certain way you have to go in front of the media to let them know that you want justice for your baby. Yeah, you have to come on the media and tell us to calm the puck down. You are weaponized against us to stop real change. And when we ignore you, we get rubber bullets, tear gas, tasered. In 2021. So they have to train them on what to say. Give them a script. So you will settle the other ADOCs while we extinct them from the country their ancestors built with their lives. Or at the very least, make them the permanent underclass in the country their ancestors built with their lives and make them eat the cost of slavery. Because we, as a white inferior glacier donkey, are dying out. And we can't produce like black women. So, let's neutralize them economically and make the immigrants believe they're white and winning. While we continue state-sanctioned executions and give Asian protections and 80.5 million, and give Indians $30.2 billion more as their reparations they've been receiving since 1866. We need to make you white because you don't want to be the anchor. We know they don't deserve to be the anchor. We know that they're the legs of the table we eat from. But would you rather trade places? Would you rather that? Would you rather be the legs? Because we're telling you right now, these are our chattel slaves to this day. Or we'll let a few of them win. We'll especially let you win if you're a black immigrant with money. We'll weaponize the money you come from to give you access to whiteness. Not as much as us, of course. But we will do what we did before. Collude with you to trade them into slavery. You know the ones whose kings and queens lost the wars to you. We'll give you material and we'll give you jewelry and liquor for the losers of those wars that we can enslave to build up America. And we'll partner with you yet again to give you access to citizenship, jobs, education, using their affirmative action. We'll give what was meant to make them whole to you, to give you advantage so you too can execute them with impunity. We'll weaponize you to neutralize them and to make them the permanent underclass because, see, somebody's got to be the anchor of our capitalism. Let us know if you'd like to trade places. But we won't let you because we owe them 6.2 quadrillion on the low end. That's 151 million per ADOX. Which is why it's all about Asian life. It's all about blue lives, as if there is such a thing. It's about everybody in anybody's life but black life. And as long as you agree to follow our white inferior glacier donkey script, to hold them down as the anchor of our capitalism, we'll give you a few butter biscuits. Now, you'll never have as many butter biscuits as we do. We'll give you just enough to make you think you've got access to whiteness. For your complicity in oppressing them and guaranteeing that they will forever be the anchor of our capitalism. So follow the script when we execute your children and your husbands and your brothers and your cousins and your fathers and your mothers and your sisters and your babies. Follow the script now, you hear? Because their tax dollars
are going to pay you those millions in the civil lawsuits for being quiet and not insisting that we end qualified immunity. Get them together in the streets. Get them together, because we're going to pay you for allowing us to be on the police forces that put us in your communities to execute you with impunity. And for those with those big mouths, like the Angela Nirvanas, we'll label them Black identity extremist. We'll disable their voices. We'll deny them access to employment commensurate with their education and job experience. We'll shadow ban them. We'll turn against her. We'll talk about her. We'll drag her. We'll turn you against her. Because she is here to help deliver you up off the bottom. We will go and tell pro her and her entire reparationist movement. We'll disable and keep all of her information. And we'll turn you against her. In those early weeks after Tamir's death, various organizers offered Rice guidance. She describes her relationship with her first two attorneys. The original one was a local litigator. The second was famous movement attorney Ben Crump. And how anxious she was about saying the wrong thing. Quote, "You can see I look like a deer in headlights," she says of early interviews. She was angry, but she had been told she wasn't supposed to show her rage. Be quiet. Let us extinct the least of you. Shh. She felt constrained and underinformed. She didn't want the organizers and lawyers to handle everything. She wanted to be involved in strategy, court filings, and decision making. Not every parent of a slain child shares this desire, Rice acknowledges. But she felt her intelligence was being insulted. At times she lashed out. At other times she retreated. Quote, "You can lose your mind in a situation like this," she tells me, "especially with my son being global." Often she worried about her other children and the families across the country who belong to a club no one wants to join. The surviving families of, quote, "police-involved executions," my word. She was frustrated that while many people surrounded her, she didn't know who to trust or how to protect Tamir's story. She asked people, including some artists and organizers, to stop using his face without permission. In a sense, Rice wanted to maintain her authority over both her own voice and her son's legacy. To an extent, this was never possible. Although Tamir was her child, when we saw his sweet face emblazoned across our televisions, he became everyone's. Eventually, Rice would take issue with the national leaders in the movement for Black Lives. From Black Lives Matter to Crump, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and the controversial activist Shaun King. As self-serving in the ways they dealt with her and with other families of people killed by police officers. Rather than helping family members develop a public voice, she says, many of the prominent organizers have become the only voices. It's all about the Benjamins, baby. Quote, they should not be standing on the front line like this was their child, she says. You're supposed to be uplifting the family, the community, teaching us how to love on each other, not bickering and fighting about who gonna get the next case or who gonna be on TV next. It's a mess. Rice's frustration throughout our conversation was palpable. She became particularly animated as she described those who make a living hustling Black death. From where she sits, she sees book deals and movie deals. Cocking her head to the side as if speaking directly to her adversaries, she adds, what was you doing? She pointed to one example from March of this year when the rapper Lil Baby performed his song, The Bigger Picture, at the Grammy Awards. The performance included a reenactment of a police officer shooting a Black man and Tamika Mallory, one of the leading organizers of the 2017 Women's March, and a lifelong affiliate of Sharpton's National Action Network, delivered a spoken word address about the nation's state of emergency as part of the performance. Rice responded forcefully in a series of Facebook posts. I'm tired of you Black Lives Matter, Tamika Mallory and crew, bitches that's riding these families back, and y'all ambulance chasing attorneys Ben Crump, Lee Merrick, too. Y'all have fuck up our fight, and y'all can kiss my ass too. Y'all might as well be junior pig cops. Close quote. Later, Rice, along with another mother whose son was killed by the police, issued a more formal statement. Even when we spoke, Rice's code switched constantly. She is both deeply enraged and sometimes overflowing with emotion, in which she criticized those same activists and others, including Patrisse Cullors of Black Lives Matter, Melina Abdullah, a leader of the organization's Los Angeles chapter, and Shaun King. Families of those who were killed by the police and whose loved ones' deaths sparked mass movements continue to navigate political misrepresentation, battle zones of police repression, homelessness, and poverty, while Black leadership that has not been selected by the masses flourishes through celebrity status. These families must be provided the resources to sustain themselves, their families, and their work dedicated to building community infrastructure. Stop
celebrity activism, stop corporate investments that support lobbyists for this norm, put an end to the political economy's partisanship on Black death and poverty. This is how they're getting rich off of our homelessness and our impoverishment, our impoverment in this country with 3Ks. This is how they get rich. This is their come up. The charge understandably offended those who faced it, and Mallory, King, and Abdullah all defended themselves publicly in one way or another. During a podcast recording in March, Mallory addressed the controversy by saying, quote, "I would never be so disrespectful as to speak about her child or to have a campaign that addresses her child or uses her child's name to uplift any cause." Abdullah didn't mention Rice by name, but on Instagram shortly after she said, "I'm not going home just because somebody said go home. I will not do that." Colors and Crump did not respond to requests for comment. Anyone depicted as a savior eventually falls. Money overwhelms and distorts. King, in particular, is seen by many as a grifter and has been accused multiple times of fundraising on behalf of the victims of police violence without permission or the disbursement of funds. King denies this. Colors was recently called out by 10 local Black Lives Matter groups for not paying out to local chapters the 90 million plus the national organization received in donations in 2020. DeRay McKesson, once the single most prominent face of the movement, is criticized by organizers for having politics that are too mainstream, as evidenced by his co-founding of the police reform organization, #Campaign0. This fundamental tension undergirds all social movements and has for generations. Organizers need to solicit attention to bring people to their causes, but popular culture can't help but fixate on the spectacle of charismatic leaders rather than the larger landscape of political organizing. The belief that there must be a single leader or leading group pits organizers against one another. Likewise, this system often mutes those who do the most direct service work in favor of those with a national platform. This is why you need to only give your money to the grassroots. Give it directly to the grassroots, Black Lives Matter. Give it directly to the parents of the annihilated. Give it directly to them. Don't ever give it to the NAACP, the National Urban League, the Black Lives Matter Federation. They're using that money for the Democrats. All kinds of Act Blue accounts. That money is being fed right into the Democrats' hands. You know, akin to the survey that they're trying to raise money off of us for a survey on our reparations with no cash in it as an option. A lot of class-based policies, which we know is another white wealth transfer, which we know won't fix ADOX. The belief that there must, likewise, this system often mutes those who do the most direct service work in favor of those with a national platform. Of Mallory, Rice says, "I heard her say this is a job." Who hired you? Who sent you? Are you showing up as an activist or an entertainer? I have found myself wondering, even anguished about this very question. I too have been called upon to offer insight about the moment and the movement.
There are market exchanges happening. People are making money because news agencies, publishers, and civic and professional organizations need interpreters of this moment. You know who they're paying? The ones who continue the lies. They're not inviting me on their shows, and they know about me. Once I come on those shows, I'm not invited back. Because they don't want to hear the truth. They want the whitewash version of our 500 plus year Holocaust. So they can continue their benign neglect while weaponizing immigration against us and whiteness against us and access to whiteness against us to make us the permanent underclass. So they're not coming to talk to the grassroots. They're giving position to the people they can pay for, to the people they can buy off. We are expected to be Black, eloquent, and knowledgeable enough to enlighten their general white audiences. That's why I'm not welcome. I scream too much. Yeah. Ooh, she hollering. Hell yes, I'm hollering. This puckery here makes me want to holler. That's what they don't want. Follow the script. Make it palpable for us white folks. Don't call us out with that big old voice of yours. We need you to huck a buck or shuck a buck. We need you on the coon train. Don't you dare come over here with us, even intimating that you give a damn about your people. Don't you dare do that. Don't you dare talk about how much you love them Black and strong. How dare you not be caping for immigrants, you xenophobe? How dare you advocate for Black on Black love and Black family, you homophobe? Shh. Don't speak on those things, Angela. How dare you call out Corona-ganda, Corona-gate? Gavin Newsom giving away hundreds of millions for you to vaccinate. That is the truth of how we're not vaccinating. Gavin Newsom here in California, the governor, I think he's earmarked about 161 million in exchange for you to vaccinate. Shh. Don't tell them they are the guinea pigs. We'll see in 20 years if they survived it. But don't you say it, Angela. Don't you talk about it. We're going to disable you. We're going to shadow ban you. You got to join my email list. Visit the repperspect.com and get on my email list. Had I only been on Facebook, 2.5 years of archives would have been gone. The repperspect.com. Join the mailing list. Pretty soon, all of this is going away. I will only go live, remove it, and upload it on the repperspect.com to become my own Patreon. So if you're going to watch it free, you better feast on it. It's in the process of coming off of here. I'm free on my own site to say it like I see it. I'm going to finish this last paragraph and break off here to see your comments before I pray us out. I found myself wondering, even anguished about this very question. I too have been called upon to offer insight about the moment. Oh, let me jump down. We are expected to be Black, eloquent, and knowledgeable enough to enlighten their general white audiences. Little of the money circulating within this movement ends up with the families of the victims of police killings and the leaders of the grassroots that have been executed and annihilated, while they spin the story that it was a suicide. The vast majority goes to a professional class of spokespeople, organizers, writers, and academics. And the killings continue. So whether we deliberately hustle Black death or not, it is without question a nefarious hustle. The evidence of this can be found in how much stays the same. We are still hashtagging names 7 years after Tamir's death, 9 years after Trayvon Martin's, 1 year after George Floyd's. And there are literally thousands of names we will likely never learn. Let's see what you got to say about it, fam. Miss Lady K Love, I see you, fam. Brian C. Johnson, thank you for joining the live. Gwen Johnson, thank you. Joel Jones, you know you're my diaper buddy. I love you so much. Thank you. Be the Power was awesome tonight. Check out the archive, family. If you missed it, I'm going to watch the rest of it. And I'm going to retire my voice for the weekend so I can get to screaming again on Monday. Miss Lady K Love, we are all connected and supporting each other. It is so awesome. It's beautiful to see, Miss Lady K Love. What's up, Angela? I see you, Trey Lincoln. I see you, Cynthia Adeyami. Buffer groups. I see you, Brian. With regards to survivors of ADOC's assassinations, faux activism groups either grift off their loss for a quick buck, or if these families see a payout, it comes at a cost of being compromised. You better know it. Cynthia agrees. Facts. Cynthia says the burdens of ADOS. All we want is to get on the swing and play. Why must we have to fight every MF day on the goddamn playground? It's truth. Damn. Brian says it goes back to the being compromised. Media gets the family members of the slain to get on TV and call for peace. How can there be such when we're being taken out like sitting ducks? Oh, yes. Miss Lady K Love says exactly. They don't realize that reparations will bring about healing. Without reparations, there will continue to be a divide. Yes. Shadow slaves for cheap guns, trinkets, and alcohol, says Cynthia. That is bullcrap. She was being oppressed by her own. Yes. All right, fam. I see you, Miss Lady K Love. Can you have on your show? Cynthia, I don't understand that question. Can you have on your show? You mean, can I bring Miss Samaria Rice on my show? I don't know. I don't know if that's what you mean. Yeah, I don't know. I
I don't know if that's what you mean. That's a damn shame, though. You know it. Brian says it's like slave overseers fighting over who gets to hold the whip. This is why we can't move forward. Too many of us picking over our own bones. You said a mouthful there, Brian. And this is why we must keep up the fight. We must lean in. We can't afford to give up, give in, or give out. That's my plan, and I'm sure that is the plan of the new black media by and large. We're going to keep exposing them. And that's what they're mad at. That we won't go somewhere and sit down and shut up. We just reinvent ourselves. Miss Lady K, I know I wish she would be on Angela's show. Lady K says, I can't stand Sharpton. I can't stand anyone who is complicit in the oppression of ADOX. She and her family are experiencing PTSD and may require lifetime intervention, says Cynthia. We all need it. Them, of course, the most, but we all need it. It's every day is a war. Brian says, mainstream outlets are not interested in full-chested reparationists. They only give airtime to flat-chested ones. You better know it, Brian. We got righteous anger. Yes, we do, fam. I see no reason to march in the streets. Well, family, sadly enough, marching in the streets keep a spotlight on it akin to my show. If we don't take to the streets, and if we don't do shows like this, it means we're complicit in our own extinction. We got to keep going. Unapologetically Black ADOS. Always stop by, show some love. Thank you so much, family. I appreciate you guys so much. I love you, Black and Strong, family. Yes, I do. We're going to finish that segment on Monday. You guys know how I do. I usually pack the show too tight because I've got to give it to you as the Spirit gives it to me. Because the stuff I talk about in between, the way I see it, is the true lesson. That's the true education. My interpretation of these articles that I bring you that are heavy on my heart. Okay? So that's where the real meat and potatoes is, all right? So I know it's a slow road to get to my talking points, but I don't think that we can catch it all. So I'm here to help you catch some of it. Because I need that God in you to be fired up to like, share, subscribe, so that we can grow the reparationist movement greater than the voices of benign neglect. I thank you so much for spending your time with me this evening. I'll see you again on Monday, 12 noon for your midday. What's up, Robert Kennedy? I see you, fam. Thank you. That looks like an ally. I think he's an ally. He looks like an ally to me. God bless you. Because you know I'm telling the TR Ruth. But we do have allies, family. Robert Kennedy has always been a friend to the show, no matter how bad I talk about his people. And I appreciate him for that. He knows he ain't one of them. Okay. But anywho, I'll be back Monday with your midday wake-up call at noon Pacific Standard Time. We just roll the topics over, and I modify if I get an inspiration and add a new article while I'm in the midst. I tell you, I'm in the flow of spirit. God is moving. This is my ministry, okay? So I don't always follow the script. With that said, family, I want to thank you so much. God bless you too. Right, Black Robert Kennedy. I really do appreciate you as an ally. You should talk about the white people next show. You should talk about the white people next show. I talk about the white people every show. Oh, you haven't been here in a while. Yes, peace until Monday. This is all about, the white hand of oppression of my people. That's the whole reparations perspective. I'm always dealing with white people or immigrants who are made white by access to whiteness and resources that white folks killed and stole from ADOS. Okay. But with that said, family, let me pray a prayer of protection around you before I let you go, that the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOX and its allies are, God truly is, because, family, you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until Monday, family, you make it a beautiful, God-inspired rest of your evening and weekend. Know that I love you black. I love you strong. Peace.